Hello and Happy New Year. This is my voice. These are my hands. And scattered on the desk here are an assortment of toys that I acquired throughout 2024, among other things that I couldn't fit on the desk right now. But that's the point of what I'd like to talk about today is gear that I got in 2024 and stuff that maybe I decided to part with in 2024 and why. So not really a demos video if you want to know how this stuff works. There are probably some other videos on my channel with some of this stuff in it, but more of a what did I get? Why did I want it? What did I part with? And why didn't I keep it? So let's get right into it. First up is a pretty big caveat off the top. I'm just someone who does this for fun. I like gear. I like making music. I like building, repairing things. So anything that I talk about today is stuff that I acquired through my own means. I either, bought it or traded for it. Most often I got it used or secondhand for a really good deal somewhere. So nobody's giving me this stuff. No one's telling me to talk about this stuff. This is just me talking about gear I liked and stuff that didn't gel with me over the course of 2024. So there you go, caveat out of the way. First up is the Novation Circuit Rhythm, which technically I acquired at the tail end of 2023, but I wasn't really able to get into or start using until 2024. And I did do a lot with it in the early part of 2024. In fact, I made an entire EP solely on the Circuit Rhythm, which is available everywhere and is probably the soundtrack to this video that I've put underneath all this talking. So that's what you're hearing is stuff that I made entirely on the Circuit Rhythm. Now, a caveat again with this unit in particular is I did not pay near full price for this. And I think I said in the discussions on other videos that I wouldn't have. I didn't look at the Circuit Rhythm for around the $600 Canadian that it was going for a while. But at the end of last year, Long & McQuaid, our local kind of retailer, just blew these out for cheaper than a Volca. So at that price, I couldn't really resist. So I ended up picking it up for very, very cheap. And at that price, I found the cost to features ratio was great. And the workflow I really like. The big pads are lovely. It's limited, 8 tracks, a certain amount of sample time, whatever. But I find the limitations creatively inspiring. Just to get around them, you kind of gotta kind of get yourself out of a box. A lot of creative decisions have to be made, which I enjoy. I usually use something like the Deluge, as hopefully you know from other videos I make. And that is so unlimited in many ways that sometimes it's nice to go back to a device that really forces you to work a certain way. And the workflow on the Circuit Rhythm is one of the reasons why I stuck with it. So yeah, anyway, the Mental Clutter EP that I'll have the cover up somewhere is out everywhere. I appreciate you listening to it. All made on the Circuit Rhythm. There's a video about how I did that. And, so far I'm still happy with this. I haven't turned it on a lot since I finished that EP. I kind of went really strong with it for the first half of the year and then took a breather. But I do really like the workflow, so I can see coming back to it here and there. And that brings me to the next piece of gear I acquired last year. I'm trying to do this in order of when I bought or sold something. And I am a nerd and do keep track of all that stuff. So the next item technically I picked up was the Arturia Minilab Mark III, which I got used for I think $80 Canadian. I wanted it because it has actual DIN MIDI. It's got a couple faders and the knobs and keybed. I like the Arturia key step, which I still have somewhere. And I wanted something with just a bit more control that I could use with the Deluge. I ended up actually using it a bunch with the Rhythm while I was recording the Mental Clutter EP because the faders gave me more hands-on control. I was trying to do risers or other things. And it's great for, melodic playing of the samples in the Rhythm or the Deluge. And so far, I'm still enjoying it. I'm not using it as much as I thought I would because it's just another piece of gear you have to set up and sit beside something, whereas things like the Rhythm and the Deluge are kind of standalone. So I'm still hanging on to it. I mean, for $80, it's hard to complain about. I do find the software a bit tricky, and some of the things that you can do that I'd like to be able to do that you can't do in the software are annoying, but that's everything. No gear is perfect, and that's why there'll probably be a Mark IV, who knows, sooner than later. Anyway, couldn't pass it up, so that's where we're at so far. Okay, so this brings us to the first piece of gear I sold or traded in 2024, which might be a bit of a semi-controversial one. It was the Elektron Digitakt, the first version. Basically, I got it for a really good price secondhand. Like, I couldn't pass it up. In the box, barely touched, but it sat in the box, barely touched almost the whole time I had it. I just have too much other gear that I'm already dedicated to, and the workflow was unfamiliar enough to me that it was going to be a lot of time to dig in. But the Deluge already does pretty much whatever I want, and then I ended up with things like the circuit rhythm and other stuff. So it sat there, and I heard rumors there was a Mark II coming, which was eventually true. So I thought, let's get rid of this before the value plummets. Also, just, I get depressed about the whole cyclical thing of Mark I, Mark II, Mark III every year, kind of like the Minilab, which we've already alluded to. So I was happy to unload it, and someone else was very happy to pick it up. So I think it worked out for the best, and I haven't really thought about it. Honestly, I kind of forgot I ever owned one. Maybe I'll look at another piece of Elektron gear if I get a good price, but for the moment, that's a company and a workflow I have had very little experience with. Okay, and another group of items that I sold in 2024, which were the ones that kind of got me started down a bit more of an electronic journey from a guitar journey, which is what I was on before and still am. I have a lot of guitars and pedals and things. But in 2024, I sold 4 of the 6 Volcas that I had on the shelf here. So I still have a couple of them. I still have the keys and the Volca kick. These 2 were just the ones that I was having the most fun with and still had things I wanted to do with. We'll see if they last the year 2025. I've been feeling a bit like purging, so, it's felt good to get rid of some stuff. And the Volcas weren't really worth a lot. I didn't really pay a lot for them. I think I had bought the Volca sample new, but the rest of them, again, were really, really good deals online, secondhand market kind of thing. So I wasn't worried about passing them on for cheap. And, I had a lot of them, and they were sitting here doing nothing. So I thought, let's get out of get out of the room, clean up a little bit. The Mental Clutter, as per the EP playing in the background, was weighing on me a little bit. So I felt good getting rid of those. I still like them. I still have a soft spot for the Volca series. But, sometimes it's just time to move on, especially when you've reached the limitations or outgrown a piece of gear. So that's the story of the Volcas. We'll see if I have any left by the end of 2025. Okay, and that brings us to another item that I got rid of in 2024 that may seem a bit controversial, but I feel like everything I sold or traded will seem controversial to someone, and maybe you're yelling at me for getting rid of it, but that's the point, is it's all subjective and it all has to fit your individual workflow or room setup, and some of the stuff just wasn't gelling with what I was trying to do. So I thought I'd find it a better home, because there is a good home for everything somewhere, I hope. And that item was the Minilogue XD module, which you'll see pictured somewhere here. I don't have it anymore. Again, it was something I got in a really good secondhand deal, too good to pass up. I had to give it a shot, and I did really like it for a while. The module itself was just a little bigger than I wanted from something that didn't have a key bed. I figure if it's going to be small enough to be a module, I'd like it to be super portable, like the Nymphes or a Volca or something like that. But the Minilogue module was just big enough to be cumbersome to me. I did really like the mix of analog and digital oscillator capabilities. The Log SDK was fun to play around with. I didn't code anything, but to grab stuff that was available and add new effects or new oscillator types, I thought was really cool and a nice idea from Korg. I did find some of the decisions on what they had to do to fit the digital stuff in to kind of limit the control space they had, kind of took away some stuff, like the envelopes got a bit changed from what I would have liked. The original Minilogue, which I also had and didn't keep from a prior year, I liked that as a layout better, but the XD, I liked the sound design opportunities better, but I still felt like there were some concessions that drove me a bit nuts. And in the end, it just was too big and I didn't use it. And I thought, find it a home to someone who will be happy to get a decent price on it. So out it went. Okay, that takes me to maybe the only thing on the list that I did actually buy brand new, directly from the manufacturer, although I did get it when it was on sale. And that is the Templo Devices Pocket Studio Comp. It's a little compressor that kind of can be a pedal with the foot switch here, or I use it as more of a desktop thing. Very useful. It has XLR inputs as well as TRS jacks or TS jacks, inputs and outputs, sidechain. You can see actually I'm going through it right now for my vocals, so you can see the excellent little metering that you get there if I speak louder or whatever, and it has to engage the gain reduction. It's got phantom power if I want it. And, I think I paid like $250 Canadian for this when it was on sale. And I felt very good about that because I already have the Nomad 50 amp by Templo. So I know what they make is pretty decent quality and they're a Canadian company. So that was good. It solves a problem for me, which is I wanted to be able to use a variety of different, maybe dynamic mics or other mics with the Deluge. And the Deluge mic input only has so much gain. So this allows me to not only engage kind of a compressor for some smoothing on the way in, but also some gain or phantom power if I want it. But you can also use it with other gear. So I've been using it with other equipment. Great little device, cool company, battery powered, takes either polarity of negative or positive power supply, kind of whatever you have kicking around, which is also cool. And now I build pedals, so normally I wouldn't be buying something like this, but compressors are tricky, especially when you get into phantom power and good metering. So again, I bought this myself. They don't know I'm doing this. This is more just a little thing I got in the year that I wanted to talk about, and I do use it, so it's kind of cool. Okay, that brings me to the next item that I picked up on the secondhand market in 2024. Something I'd been looking for a long time, kind of not like a holy grail, but kind of like a one that got away because I always just missed out and hemmed and hawed and lost good deals on them. But that is the Casio CZ101, which some of you might have seen the video I did exploring its multi-timbrality capabilities with the Deluge. So anyway, this is something I've just been looking for a while, just casually. And someone pointed out there was one in the box, not too far from me, and I was in the area anyway, and it seemed like a no-brainer. So this one's barely been used, which is great. I won't leave it on the table because it'll take up too much space and clutter all the stuff. But, so far I'm having fun with it. Is it annoying in some ways? Definitely. The fact that you need to have batteries or power supply plugged in at all times or else you lose your custom-made patches, that is annoying. But is it fun? Does it have interesting sonic capabilities, and is it a good size? 100%. So far, I'm pretty happy with it. It sits on the shelf most of the time, but every now and then I'll pick it up for inspiration or try something weird with it. I picked up some of the companion apps to help kind of patch storage and creation. And for the price I got it for, it's kind of a no-brainer, even if I don't use it a lot. It's just a cool looking thing that inspires me to look at. So that's the CZ101. So far, so good. Sticking around. Remember when I said the stuff I let go of in 2024 may seem controversial to people depending on who you are and what you think I should have kept instead? Well, this is one of those because in 2024, I got rid of my trusty Nord Electro 3 keyboard, pictured here for obvious reasons. Basically, it was rock solid, really good traveling workhorse. I toured with it a bunch. We had the carrying case to make it super easy, but the sound set was specific and limited enough that I found I wasn't reaching for it anymore as projects changed and kind of needs were being met by other equipment. A lot of the stuff I've acquired in the last couple of years comes with Wurlitzer and Rhodes type sounds, as well as organ emulations, which were doing the job well enough for me. It had a great key bed. It was really built solidly, but I just wasn't reaching for it. So it actually spent probably most of last year behind a door, kind of like that kid that you like but think should have moved out by now. I think I just felt bad having it and not using it, so I hid it from myself. The other thing about it really is they hold their value. I got it for a really good price secondhand many years ago, and even letting it go for a really good price now, it still held a lot of value, and so I could unlock that money toward other gear that is probably part of what you're seeing in this video. I briefly picked up a Roland VR09 to compare it to see if that would be a better one because they're cheaper and then the Nord could go live a better life. And in the end, the VR09 just wasn't built well enough and I didn't like some of the features, so that went too. But also I had enough other gear that could replicate the sounds that the Nord Electro 3 was capable of doing. So would I pick up another Nord? Only if I saw a really good deal for one because they are very expensive, but they're built well. They're just very, very expensive for someone like me who can't really justify that sort of keyboard kick sticking around very long. So anyway, Nord Electro 3 might be controversial to some, but it felt like a bit of the end of an era, but at the same time, I have more than enough gear that can replicate a lot of what that did, so I'm not too upset. Okay, how about something I picked up in 2024 that might be on the table staring at us waiting to be talked about? That is the Hologram Microcosm pedal. Now, I said before, I build a lot of pedals, so I don't often seek them out on the used market or buy them new or whatever. But Someone offered me the Microcosm in trade, and it's got enough crazy things that I could never come up with or build DIY that seemed like it'd be fun to mess with. And then you can see I 3D printed a stand for it. Getting a 3D printer in 2024 is probably a whole other video of what I've used it for around the studio. But anyway, the Microcosm is a lot of fun so far. You can see I changed the knobs. I happen to have the same knobs that they use, that they had all gray, and I have some multicolor ones. So far mine's a bit of a rainbow. I'm having fun with it. It's, a grain effects kind of delay looper thing. This isn't a demos video, so I'm sure you can find this was everybody's it pedal a couple years ago, so there's a million YouTube videos of this pedal in action. So far, I find I use it more on my guitar rig than anything else. And, I'm over the honeymoon phase with it, where I was just in awe of all the stuff it can do. And now I'm kind of trying to figure out how I'll use it practically in music making or inspiration. So we'll see how long it sticks around. But, as a trade, it was certainly a fun opportunity to get a hold of one of these. And for now, I'm happy enough with it that it makes fun noise and is always inspiring in a weird way. And I couldn't build it myself. So that's the Microcosm in a nutshell to me. So that brings us to the last thing I sold in 2024, and probably most controversial. I can hear you groaning already, and I haven't even announced it. That's the Novation Base Station 2 synthesizer. I know, modern classic, you're an idiot for selling it, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm an idiot for a lot of things, but there's a long list. But it just wasn't gelling with me. I picked it up for a really, really good price secondhand, which is a theme. I can't resist a good deal. And I thought, great, I'll keep it on the shelf. I'll pull it down when I need a solid analog bass or lead. And I just found I wasn't really turning it on very much. Mine had an issue with some crumbling rubber knobs that Novation was kind enough to send me new ones free, which was great. But aside from, messing around with the AFX firmware, which was fun, I never really turned it on. I think it might have just been a little bit bigger than I wanted in terms of form factor. Like, it would have taken up most of the frame here, which means that in a portable setup, there's not a lot of room for other stuff. And, that can be tricky. Trying to decide what to take to a gig or a jam is tricky, especially when you get into those sizes. Also, there was a lot of overlap in my studio. Case in point, I already had the Circuit Mono Station, which is an analog bass, if not the same engine as the Base Station 2, with some different features in a grid rather than a keyboard. And I don't really gel with that, but something about that I enjoy more. The form factor I find great, and it is smaller, so I can fit it into a setup if I want to. In fact, actually selling the Base Station 2 has made me really revisit the Mono Station, because similar sounds, and is it about the device, the form factor, or was it just the sounds I wasn't gelling with? And so far, I'm back in love with the Mono Station. So sometimes getting rid of a piece of equipment can kind of make you refocus on what you already have, which is always good. And actually, my friend Phil gave me some good advice. Phil, if you're watching, hi Phil, which was, if you're thinking about selling something you don't use, and it's something you could find fairly easily again on the secondhand market or whatever, then just get rid of it. If you're not using it right now, but you could get it again next week for a similar price, then what's the point of agonizing over space or money you have locked up in something when it can be replaced pretty easily? And that I felt exactly right about with the Base Station 2, because I don't know about where you are, but where I am, you can kind of get one of those for a decent, fair price pretty much weekly. So I didn't feel bad letting it go, and the person I got it from was new to synthesis and seemed very happy to get it for the price I was giving it to them for, so it worked out, I think. Okay, and finally, in this video that was supposed to be short and is now long because I rambled, the last thing I picked up in the end of 2024, something that I do feel I've had enough time to gel with, and I've done a couple videos on already, is the Modern Sounds Pluto semi-modular synth. So that didn't even exist in my mind. I had no idea this was a thing until, a week before I picked one up. It's very small company, Modern Sounds, one guy, and I didn't know it existed. And then my friend, actually Phil, so hi Phil again, he told me there was a shop that had one used for a good price. I was able to get a good deal on it with some, discount code or whatever. And then next thing you know, it's at my door a day later, and now I've been really enjoying it. I have no other modular or semi-modular gear really, so it's a bit of a journey for me, and I don't really want to go down that road. But so far, standalone or with the Deluge, I've been having a lot of fun with the Modern Sounds Pluto 2-voice synthesizer. Interesting separate sequencers, and the moons of Pluto provide the clock sources, and there's all kinds of connectivity to other gear. So far it's been a lot of fun. I made a video on it that'll be linked somewhere, and I can see using this in a live setup. I have a show coming up in January that'll probably be part of the show for sure, and so far I'm really enjoying it. And it seemed like a fun piece of gear that I got for a price that I wasn't going to worry about if I didn't want to keep it. So that was the last piece of gear. A good item to end the year on, because it was really inspiring and kind of sent me down a different rabbit hole to start the new year off with. So the Modern Sounds Pluto so far has been super fun. And like I said, I picked it up of my own volition. Nobody knows I'm talking about it or knows I even have one probably. So there you go. Those are 11-ish things that I bought or sold in 2024, and the reasons why. Will some of the stuff on the table here last 2025? I don't even know. I mean, sometimes I don't turn on stuff for a while and then I get annoyed at owning it and then it has to go. Sometimes I feel bad for buying something and feel guilty and feel like I have to sell other things. But that's just how the brain works or doesn't. So anyway, I appreciate if you got anything out of this video and thought it was interesting, and maybe you have gear you bought and sold in 2024, or stuff you're looking forward to picking up or selling in 2025, or maybe you just want to yell at me for getting rid of that Base Station 2 or Digitakt or Electro. Feel free to do so, and hopefully lots more stuff to come and more noise to come in the future as well. But do me a favor, take a listen to the Mental Clutter EP, as I was really happy when that came out in 2024, and it's available everywhere. And then, more from me to come in 2025.